lay my head down. So it's all good, man. It's all good. Y'all held it down, man. You had some familiar faces,
Yeah, man.
man.
Yeah, man. We miss you though, man. We miss you a lot. Hey, let me say one thing, and we as black men got to give other brothers kudos when it's due, even though we will say it's what you're supposed to do. Sometimes you still need to get your kudos. And man, I appreciate you going helping moms. I know this isn't the first time you do it. I know you do it all the time, but in front of all people, I'm gonna tell you, man, it's the right thing to do. It's what you should do, but a lot of people don't do it, man. I appreciate you for doing it, taking care of moms, even though I don't know how many 2-3 hours away, bro. That's dedication, man.
Ah, man, I appreciate it, man. Like I said, you only given one set of parents, man. They just split me in half, so it's kind of eye opening experience when you down one man. And so there ain't never enough you could do. I appreciate you pointing that out. It's something second nature to me, something I've been doing my whole life. But
Right.
like you said, a lot of people don't. I can't say a lot of people,
Some
but
people.
I think a lot of people want to live their life a little bit, and
Right.
your parents ain't always gonna be there for you, man. You can't go and rewind, man.
Exactly, man. You just ain't stopping by though. A lot of people. I mean, I just say this, and this is the crazy part. This is crazy. When I lived in Illinois, my next door neighbor, not next door, across the street neighbor, their parents lived in the same subdivision. They were like
Right, right.
walking distance away, and that was her parents, and his parents seen their grandkids more than her parents. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
some people don't appreciate the fact that you have family close, man, and that's big. So I just wanted to throw that out there, man, for the people to understand the kind of guy that you are.
Like I said, I appreciate you holding it down, man. And let's say you had some good guests on there, man. One thing, man, to take you to the curb on, man.
Uh oh,
That'll take you. You had Leonard Burris on here last
taco.
show. Yeah, Taco. And you didn't ask him the infamous question,
I did.
did you?
Yeah. Come on, man. Come on.
The probationary questions?
Now. I didn't dig into him because he was a guest host, and I was gracious for him taking out the time in his busy schedule. So I didn't dig into him like we would do, but I did bring up the miracle.
Oh, okay. So, okay. No, no, that wasn't the one.
Oh, what you talking about?
Oh man.
See, I don't see. I'm a little. Taco came 4 years after, 3 years after me, so I
Yeah,
don't
because he
know
was quite a
all
bit
the
after me.
yeah. So I don't know all the juicy details that you know since you stayed in Lex.
What you were supposed to ask this young
Uh
man
huh.
is, does he know why UK football was on probation?
Oh, that's
It
getting
was his
personal.
coaches.
That's getting personal. Come on, come
It was
on.
his coaches.
That's his. Wasn't his teammate? Wasn't that Robinson?
Yeah, yeah.
That wasn't Taco, dude. That wasn't Taco.
It was his
Yeah,
coaches.
I know, but it wasn't Taco.
But that's why you could have got more out of him. You ain't gonna ask Dwayne, man. Dwayne a big fella, man.
Facts.
I ain't gonna ask
That's
Dwayne about it. But
that's a good point. That's a good
Taco,
point.
you should have gave Taco a chance to give his side of the story, man.
Well, what side would he have if it wasn't him?
It was his coaches, and he came. He came. So basically, if you went to Twinsburg Chamberlain and you and I both signed with Kentucky, and my coaches got they palms greased, how are you gonna say it's not me? Maybe yeah, Dwayne obviously maybe was the bigger gym, but it's my coaches.
Well, what if Taco didn't know? Since
I,
because and what if Taco get mad because he didn't get into that cheddar?
I have spake to Taco about this, so we have
Oh,
discussed this, so I know what he knows.
oh, okay, all right. You have insider information, so that's more than what I had. I forgot
And
about
that's why,
that.
hey, and that's the whole idea the locker came from. Cause when I see these dudes and there's rumors and scuttlebutt going around, I run right to the question. I run right to the question, man. So that's when I first met him. I said, hey man, first asked him about Bluegrass Miracle, but then Next thing you know, I was like, man, you got our whole program in trouble. And he kind of broke it down to me a little bit. It's kind of a lot of things you just said kind of says it. So
Yeah, that's interesting, man. So yeah, I guess we talk about the elephant in the room, man. What's your thoughts on, because man, this has been a rough week, man. I'm not gonna lie. With a 14-year-old son, starting to ask questions, got a 10-year-old daughter who's scared of the word death. It's like, dude, it's so what's your thoughts, bro?
Man, it's basically exactly what you said, man. We got a couple guests lined up, man. Some former players. They weren't our teammates, but I mean, it's kind of like you said, man. And you know what the funny thing is the uncertainty about life, and like youngsters are gonna have that. And I don't know how you feel. You went to Catholic school, and you don't never carry a chip on your shoulder. People don't understand why I carry a chip on my shoulder. I don't expose it all the time, but you walking around this bad boy, like kind of like you don't belong here. And once you start feeling like the authorities and the government could care less if you are here, and would turn a blind eye to your expiration from here, it kind of gets scary, man. Like I said, I got 4 younger nephews, 2 young ones. One's still a baby. One is 13. I got some 20-year-olds, and they into all that worldly stuff, expensive clothes, fast cars, and I got myself, man. I'm the backbone of my family, man. So, man, if you take me out, it'd be tough. But the whole problem is that now people are starting to talk, and I think people are starting to listen. The only problem I really have is about the whole thing and how it comes about. There's small pockets of people who are making excuses or diluting the conversation. But the only thing about it is, this is the thing that resonates in the back of my mind. If there was no camera there, would this even be a topic?
No. See, that's the part that it's hard for me, because like you said, I went to a Catholic school. I was class 77. I think it was 5 black people in the class, or 5 people of color in the class. And I tell people it's all about empathy, man. And it's hard for you to understand. And that's rightfully so. So just listen. Just take the words. Even if you don't agree, don't try to combat it. See, that's the problem for me, is the defensive nature of some people. And like, my wife and I, we are both Scorpio, so we're the same person. So
right.
We have to, at a point, have to listen, not be trying to prepare your next statement of what you're going to say while the person's talking. So when you're doing that in essence means you're not listening. And if you're not listening, you're not able to learn. So therefore, just listen. That's all we're asking. It's like the buzzword is I've heard this BLM and black on black crime. We bring out black on black crime only when we start talking about issues affecting black people. We don't talk about it all the time, but when something happens to a black person, well, it's black on black crime. We don't talk about that. Man, I lived in Chicago. There was a protest all the time, or a get together, a gathering, an uprising about it all the time. Now, the media doesn't portray it. That's not their fault. They're talking about it all the time.
Right.
But since you don't see it, and people are like, well, why now? It's like, dude, if you're in a community, you will understand.
Yeah, and you kind of hit the nail on the head for me, man. And one thing I can't stand is a but person. And I think where we at this point, like I said, I think one of our guests, or both of our guests, are going to let you. Well, I know they said they want to get in on the topic, or I asked them to come on the topic. Is that you will understand that if I tell you this hurts, and you are my friend and you respect me, then and that has nothing to do with racism. It has to do with anything, you know. So I mean, or with these issues, but like you said, it's the whole thing when someone don't hear what you're saying or combating something, you can't tell me what I'm going through. You can't explain to me how to deal with what I'm going through.
Hey,
All you can do as a friend is be supportive, or just be supportive and let me, let me vent. Or like I said, if you want to pick up your weapon and fight with me or for me, then you do that. But at the very least, I don't think you should dilute or dismiss my concern as a friend.
right. Hey, Ant, we got a Barry Benson online. Let's see if I can get him on. Give me 1 second.
All right.
Hello.
Mr. Benson,
Yo, what's going on?
how you doing?
Doing good. How about you?
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts, brother?
Chilling. Trying to survive another day.
Where you from?
America.
What part of America?
Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh. So what are your thoughts?
Like, what do you mean, like thoughts?
On things going on in the world right now?
Oh man, it's just like
Sports issues.
terrible. Let me tell
Pardon?
it's terrible. Let me tell you. I just wish everyone can like get along, and it's like wow. I wish like peace for worldwide peace.
Okay. So how did you get on our show? How did you come across the show?
Yo, good question. Yo, am I on a TV show right now? What is going on?
Yeah, man, you
you're
live,
by
brother.
half of America.
Oh, how many people watch this?
52,000.
No way, for real?
Yeah.
For real.
Are you joshing me? Yo, send a link over so I can see that.
All
I don't believe you.
right. So if you found us, there's other people who are watching too. So it's not just us three, brother.
Hell yeah, man. Oh man. Let me. I'm gonna go viral by smoking this bong for 52,000
No.
people.
All right, Barry. It was thanks for joining the show,
Good
brother.
you, Mr. Benson.
Yo, send over the link, man.
Hey, good meeting you, man.
Yo, what's the
Hey,
show
Saint.
called? What's your show called?
Man, you ain't gonna screen nobody, man.
And
I thought that was somebody under alias, man.
that's what. Hey,
He waiting to get in though.
we have hey, that's the bad part about it when you're doing this live and it's just me and you.
Right. We got nobody to screen.
We got no one to
man.
screen anything. Hey, we have Leo on. Let's bring Leo on. Hold on.
Let's pray he a familiar face.
Leo,
Dot.
what's up, brother?
He's still connecting audio.
Oh, okay. Yeah, man. We we need to hire someone to screen out the guy.
Man, I'm looking at him like, hey, Leo, man, how's it going, man? Is he still getting situated?
He should be able to hear. Leo, can you hear us, brother? Leo.
How does he can't have us on mute?
I think he has us on mute or something, because
Leo,
give us the thumbs up, Leo, if you hear me. Give me the thumbs up if you hear me. Nah, he can't even hear us.
Look up in the air if you can't hear us.
Leo. So I don't know, man. But
I think he thinks he's still in the waiting room.
I think he I don't know what's the.
Can you unmute him? Maybe he has us on mute. No, he can have us on mute.
Nah, his audio doesn't seem like it's on, but he still should be able to hear it.
Hope he don't do anything strange while he's been watching.
Nah, I'm a chat him. But yeah, man, it's like, you know what's the funny thing about it that kills me is people use this stat and they use the numbers or they use the percentage. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
This guy on Twitter was debating, and he was like, cops kill more white people than black. I'm like, yeah, there are more you guys than us. But the numbers close. When there's 13% blacks, do the percentage and then talk to me. It's like
right.
And that's the thing that kills me is always the defensiveness of it. And it kills me, man. It's like, why are we? That's one thing we should all be able to agree on is the aspect of racism. Now, you might not be racist. There we go.
There the man go.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's up, man?
Going on, man?
Good to see you too. Anthony Van, how's it been?
Been good, man.
Been doing good, man.
All right, good to see both smiles.
I was hoping you didn't pick your nose or anything because you couldn't hear us. I said, man, we live, man. You just kind of sit down there, so you ain't doing anything.
I just actually left the restroom. I was wiping. Hope you didn't see that.
Oh man, yeah, man. Locker room. It's been a long time since you've been in the locker room, I think, or at least suiting up in one.
Not been a long time since I've been in one, but a long time since I've suited up in one. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all we do in here, man. You know, like when we're sitting at the locker, man, issues going on with the coaching staff, the team, off the field, or whatever. But now we got the elephant in the room in America right now. And now, I was watching your YouTube videos, your Facebook videos, man. You brought across some great points, man. Especially your cancer comparison to Black Lives Matter, man. I thought that was pretty neat, man. And we've been friends for some years, and teammates. Been to war in the same places. So
yep.
I feel like if we could do it, anybody can do it. But I don't know. Just want you to spread your message for the people that didn't hear it.
Right. Yeah. You want me to talk about the Black Lives Matter issue?
I mean, you can break it down because there were some points there. I guess the key points in there that and especially you being from I guess you do have a lot of color. You do have some color mixed in with you, but just some of the perspective you brought up that people may not accept from somebody my shade or Van's shade.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think first of all, when you hear the term Black Lives Matter, I think there are some white people that go, "Wait a minute, why are you guys just talking about Black lives? What am I, chopped liver? What, I don't count?" And what I was trying to say to a lot of my white friends who are good people who don't wish anybody any ill will, but maybe haven't thought about it from other people's perspective is, of course, if we all brothers and sisters, which I firmly believe that we all are, and we care about each other, yes, of course, all lives matter. But proportionately, and people say, well, there's more white people killed by police than black people. Well, statistically, that is true. However, there are 5 to 6 times more white people in the general population than there are black people, but there's not even twice as many deaths. So as a percentage, you're much more likely to be killed by a police officer if you're black or look like you guys versus look like me. And no one is trying to say that white lives don't matter. They're just trying to say that, hey, Black lives matter as well. Maybe if we added 2, because we always have the 2 movements, Black Lives Matter 2, that would help a lot of people understand that we shouldn't have to. The point is, there aren't the George Floyds of the world predominantly are not white on a per percentage basis, and it's not systemic, and it's not institutionalized, and it's the average white look. I never mean any ill will to anybody. I walk around not trying to bother anybody, but you guys know one of my great passions is a wonderful green flower. And anytime I pass a police officer, I'm worried. I give them a big wide berth. But I've never once, not once, ever thought about, am I going to be killed? Am I worried about getting pulled over? Yeah. Am I worried about getting a speeding ticket? Sure. Am I worried about maybe even being intimidated or harassed occasionally? Because I lived almost 20 years in New York under the NYPD. Yes. But whether I have a little bit of black in me, that's not evident. The police see me as a white person, and thus I've never had to worry about being killed. I've never had to worry about walking down the sidewalk and walking beside a white woman and having her getting scared. There's a lot of things which kind of ties into white privilege, and we can have discussion on that if you want to. But the point is, how many times do we have to witness another George Floyd, another Ahmaud Arbery, another, who was the lady, I think she was in Kentucky, right? That they burst in the wrong door and shot and killed this lady. Oh, sorry, my bad, wrong address. Yes, with no repercussions. And it just seems like police are able, and I know, we have to keep saying this, all police aren't bad. Well, enough of them are. And enough of them are to where it's a culture, and enough of them are to where it's systemic. And, the people that just think this is about one person, George Floyd, and actually 4 bad cops, that's a tip of the iceberg. That's a symptom. And it's not just, this has happened over and over and over and over and over again. And people, sometimes if you're white, you just dismiss it like, oh, well, somebody I don't know got killed. Isn't that too bad? And I don't know anyone, I'm sure you guys, I don't want to speak for you guys, but I'm sure you don't either. I don't certainly condone violence. I certainly don't condone the destruction of buildings, but what is it going to take? And I actually believe that most of the people who are writing are there to make the peaceful protesters look bad. And that happens all the time. And that goes way up higher than maybe you guys want to get into on this conversation. But even if that were, at some point, you've got to say, look, we've done what Martin Luther King Jr. suggested. We have marched peacefully. And what happened in a little town called Selma? Dogs were unleashed. Police were beating them down. Fire hoses were unleashed. And then look what happened to Colin Kaepernick. That was a peaceful protest. That's about as peaceful as you can get. And when you say the name Colin Kaepernick, to some people, they're enraged. They hate the name. And anybody who looks around, there's some great quarterbacks in the NFL right now. I'm sure we can, we've all, under different times, we'd be talking a lot more about that. There's some terrible quarterbacks. Van, and I mean, I'm too old, but Van and Anthony, you guys could probably be better than some of the lower starting quarterbacks out there. To say that Colin Kaepernick still can't play is ridiculous. He can't play not because of his talent. He can't play because people are so pissed off because he did a peaceful protest, just like they say. And what happens? And there's 2 quotes I'm always reminded. One is Albert Einstein, who said, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and over again and expect different results. And then there's another dude who had some pretty good quotes, was Malcolm X. I'm all for, he says, peaceful protest. Let's do peaceful protest, and I'll be behind you guys if peaceful protests work. But at some point, we will have our rights, we will have our equality, we will have our justice by any means necessary. Now, I don't actually believe that the vast majority of the destruction of property and the mayhem that's happening in a lot of major cities right now are the same people that are upset about George Floyd. I think there's a lot of people from, as there always are, and I won't go too far into the Bilderberg group or George Soros and the far left and the far right extremists who come there to divide us, to cause, I think it's mostly them. But my point to a lot of my white friends is, dude, if it were, can you blame them? Let me ask you a question. I asked my white friends, what if that wasn't George Floyd? What if that was your baby boy? And, I know he's a grown man or was a grown man, but that was somebody's son. And when you have a son, that'll always be your baby boy, no matter how old he is. What if that was your son that looked just like you? And I think a lot of people will go, man, I might be acting a little different. I might want to burn the whole damn town down.
Hey Leo,
Hey,
Leo,
hey,
I
Leo,
got a quick question, Leo. You brought up the Selma incident, which people don't understand is seeing those dogs and seeing those fire hoses put up on people change the narrative. So do you and change some laws and change the sort of the direction of the country? Do you think now, since we have seen this live, not just a little live, we saw this in action with two other cops also holding them down. Do you think this will have that Selma-like influence, and maybe we can take a couple more steps forward in the relationship between all of us?
Man, I sure as hell hope so. That is my biggest wish. I do think it will inch us in the right direction. Will that be a big, impactful move, short term? And I think it's up to a lot of us. When I say us, just like Tupac said, us is not black or white. Us is black and white. Us is good versus evil. I think there's a lot of good people. And I bring up the point that you just mentioned and we were talking about with um, um, Martin Luther King Jr. It wasn't just the adults that were marching with him, and there were more black people, but there were some white people with him even back then. They were kids. There were children, 6, 7 years old, being beaten and hit with fire hose and being attacked by dogs. That rarely gets mentioned. And I mention this a lot of time, and some people go, "Well, Leo, come on, man, that was like 60 years ago, or whatever." I'm like, yes, it was. And what's changed? Here we are in 2020 having the same damn discussions. And I to your point though, I think Will Smith said it first, made a great point that, you know, I certainly don't believe that racism is increasing. I don't believe that violence and police brutality is increasing. It's just being filmed, as Will Smith said. I mean, imagine if there hadn't been everybody walking around with video equipment. I mean, we still call it a phone, but it's a handheld computer device that we have, and it has some great video equipment. What if that had not have been filmed, like many others in the past weren't filmed? It had just been some bystanders' words against the police officers' words, and guess who the systems always takes? Always takes the police's word. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along, and not just move along. Some very violent, aggressive talk. Move out of here. Stop filming. What are you doing here? Where have you been? Where are you coming from? Where are you going? This sounds like a checkpoint Charlie. This sounds like communist China. And what I will say is a lot of people go, well, what's this white privilege stuff? Well, there's a lot of things to do with white privilege. I don't have to worry about getting killed by police. I have been intimidated. I've been pushed around, thrown to the ground and handcuffed. Not once did I ever worry about being killed. Had my skin been darker, I would have had to worry about the same thing I'm assuming you guys have to worry about when you see cops. Am I going to? And I thought there's a guy that made a great point is saying, the police, Obama said not too long ago that the police's most important job was to get home at night. And Bill Maher said, no, your most important job is to make sure that we get home and alive at night. And I know being a police officer is a tough job, but I just think there's a culture. And there are good cops and bad cops. But I don't know if you saw, you guys know Jonathan T. Davis used to play basketball at Kentucky. And he had a great post. And he said, if you have 100 good cops and 10 bad cops, and the 10 good cops do nothing about the 10 bad cops, you now have 110 bad cops. Now, fortunately, I do see some police officers standing up and even marching with people for police brutality, but I see a whole lot more committing police brutality even now. But to answer your question, I think you have to look at it from two perspectives. There's the general public, there's people like you and me, and then there's the system, which is government levels, federal, state, and local levels that control the police are the weapons of the government. Anybody who wears a badge, whether a federal agent, a state agent, a police officer, whatever, if you've got a gun and a badge, you are the weapon of government. And I think there's a lot more still today, culture of racism, institutional racism in the government and its minions than I do the average people just walking the street. I think there's probably a lot more apathy, which comes across sometimes as racism, but not out and out racism or hatred. But I think the only way to get what you're talking about is moving in the right direction is that we have to have an awareness. And that's what the whole Black Lives Movement, and I think too often Black Lives Movement, which is just trying to draw attention like a an awareness campaign for breast cancer versus lung cancer or something else. All of the cancers are important. All of the people are important. But right now, people are dying of breast cancer. Right now, Black people are dying in the streets. And if we don't force the spotlight on that, if we don't come together as everybody, Black and white, and say this is a problem that we've got to solve, and we can't stop talking about it.
Hey,
I think
hey, Leo.
I think we are moving that direction.
Hey, I want to introduce another guy in here, another friend. Played ball with at Kentucky for a little while, became good friends. Different neck of the woods, man. He's from a place I was told never to go by myself. I wanted to stop you though. I want to stop you, Leo, because the stuff you're saying is absolutely right. And this is the problem and the solution. I have always, and he can tell you, I've always had a chip on my shoulder because I never knew when I was going to be profiled, killed, arrested, anything. But the moment something's done wrong to me, he will go to jail before he let something happen to me. Because he's like, man, I know they about to mess with him. But it took us a while to evolve. I mean, he's always had my back, like my boy. Basically, if I'm going to jail, we both going to jail together. But he's always been the one that knows that I'm standing down and maybe berated or belittled or treated less than a human. And he's always the one to step up. So when you're saying the police need to hold other police officers accountable, Americans need to hold other Americans accountable, and the bigger voice to get the majority to respect the minority is people like yourselves and Elmo. Elmo, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing good.
Welcome, Mr. Elmo. Welcome. Appreciate you coming on, brother.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I said I knew both of you guys, fight the good fight. I know Leo has a speech. I know you just on the front line as far as I'm concerned. You know that if you see injustice being done, well, I know specifically to me, you may speak up, and I'm gonna let you speak a little bit. But I also assume maybe up until this point, if it was another person of color, you may not be as aggressive or quick to jump up if his name's not Anthony White. So, but I was kind of getting a picture to people that it was George Floyd, and it was not Anthony White. It was not somebody you're close to. But how many times we got to watch it before it does become a Van Hals or Anthony White or somebody like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, can you hear me? Can you hear me playing, Anthony?
Yeah.
You good. Your accent's out.
Well, hey, like you said, another neck of the woods. But you're exactly right in everything you just said. And the last part, it hit home with me because you're right. I mean, I knew your character and I knew you as my best friend, but this situation now, I think for the first time, and as tragic as it is, it's got us as a country looking instead of they're to we, everybody. It's not a they problem; it's a we problem. And I think right now, for me and my perspective, instead of trying for people to understand me, I think it's more important for me to understand more than for me to be understood. I'm waiting to see the role models in my life like you guys, who I can see. And just like when we were walking into the club the night, and you know my face, I was in the front, gallivanting around. I walked right in with a hat on, and I turn around and where's my buddy? He's getting stopped at the door for having a hat on. And that was the first time, I had a pretty entitled and sheltered growing up. I didn't see, that was the first time in my life I was like, oh crap, that's racist. That's real racism. Because not only did they not want to let you come in with me because you had a hat on and I had a hat on and I was already in, they wanted to tell you couldn't come in at all.
Yeah.
And if you remember, like you said, I know you saw my emotion, but that's because I was emotionally attached to you. I mean, you are my friend, but that's happening. I mean, that's one situation we're laughing about microscopically. But I mean, I'll tell you that's why I'm saying I want to understand instead of be understood. I want to learn. I want to learn how we can, I want to learn what I can do to be positive in some role. I don't know what it is, but like I said, I hope to get there, and I'm willing to follow by example because I don't know what to do.
You are doing one thing that is huge, Elmo. Just you saying that you're listening. That's all. Just listening is huge for everyone. If everyone would just listen to each other and hear each other out, it's a bad thing, like you just said, that club incident. Now I'm sure Anthony might have told some other people, and they'd be like, "No, that didn't happen. There's no way it happened. Your friend have a hat on too. No, it's no way. Come on, dude. Two guys with a hat on. None of y'all getting in." See, but people understand that it happens all the time, and just like you said, well, that's not like that's not a big issue, but that little issue perpetuates itself throughout everything. You think it's little, but you let that little thing go, you let everything go. And people are blind to see that. It's like, I went to a school like that, and I used to come back with story like, "No, that's no way that happened." I'm like, see, that's the problem. That's the problem. Why would I lie? What's the point of me lying? What am I getting? What am I getting from lying to you? It's not like you a judge or someone who can make a difference in making this change. I'm just telling you a story. I'm not gonna lie to you about something like that. I'm not saying I'm 6'5". I'm saying a guy stopped me who shouldn't have stopped me. I'm not gonna lie about that.
I want to point another thing out, and I know this is locker, so it kind of goes back to sports. And this is something I was thinking about coming on. It kind of goes what Elmo says, and I've seen Lee Dot out a couple times. Van and I have been out a couple times. Put this into perspective. Think about this. And I know bar owners, restaurant owners, club owners that live in Lexington, Kentucky. Now, this is where this like the stuff we're talking about is so far down in the dirt. We got to dig up this stuff first. The bar owner allows or sets a rule that you can't wear hats in your club. Flat bill hats. They don't say cowboy hat. They don't say Crocodile Dundee hat. Don't say fisherman hat. Don't say Federos. But you can't wear a flat bill hat. The owner, whoever sets that establishment, they set police officers or security. Well, most of the time at the club to have that, there's police officers outside of the club when you get there, and they look at you and tell you whether you can, if you whether. So at this point, it's being governed, it's being accepted, and you go to the door, they can tell you we don't want you in. There's pretty much only Allen Iverson wears flat bill big hats or whatever. A lot of people. And so that doesn't make you a thug. That doesn't make you any less than another person. But at the end of the day, these same two groups of people are at UK games, VIP, and are buddy with all the coaches. And so basically it's just become acceptable that your players can't come to my establishment comfortable. Or basically I take it as they don't want you in there. And I've also, and you know my,
there you go.
Elmo, you know how I am. That if you don't want me in here, I don't spend my money there.
Right.
Because I mean, racism is fine. If you want to be a racist, that's fine. Just don't kill me or don't hurt me. But by the same token, I'm not coming to your establishment. But the more I think about it, a lot of these people, it goes from the owners to the managers to everybody who uphold this mentality that it's okay. And like I said, that's far from death at this point. But it's acceptable to treat people differently. Is why I was with the whole Floyd incident. At that happened, Van had to have a conversation with his children, his son. I don't know if he got little cousins or whatever. I got 4 nephews, little brother that's a knucklehead, and we got to have. I'm pretty, and I don't know if you guys saw that video and felt like I feel uncomfortable walking out the door tomorrow, then I would be surprised.
Mm. Yeah, that. You're right, man. That's why empathy is huge, bro.
Yeah,
it's huge.
Yeah. But also, Leo, I think has a good point too, though, because I know some people, and we got some several former teammates that are in law enforcement or whatever, and I was told by some people that there's codes in law enforcement. And I would hate to believe, and not the guys that I know. I have some friends from high school. I would hate to believe anybody would stand around and think it's okay to use your authority in a negative way. But the same way I have seen my friends get upset at their friends for treating me less than a person. I'm talking these are their friends they grew up with, get upset with them. and stand up. That's so law enforcement officers have to do that. I don't think it's like you said. I don't think it's a fight that we have to fight individually or it's really a race thing. We're all involved in this thing because now, and I'm not saying it's okay. Now you got just the general population concerned about their safety and their well-being, their kids' safety and well. No matter what race you are right now, everybody's free game. Nobody knows who's getting shot, who's getting dragged, who's establishments being torn up. Even officers are worried about their livelihoods now. And it doesn't have to be this way. So, collectively, we got to come up with a plan. I'm with Elmo. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to be outspoken. I've suppressed a lot of emotions and thoughts. For years, for 40-some years, I've been suppressed. Now everybody wants to talk about it. I'm willing to talk because I've had them suppressed so long.
Yeah, I'd like to know. I'd like to see what could be a solution, and what we get our news from the media and social media. Sometimes I feel like in this tragedy that it's for example, like when you watch the NBA finals and you watch these two teams in the finals and the NBA warring against each other and playing these great games, and that's great. Around that game is fans, and they're serving alcohol. How many fans do you think take an opportunity to get a little too inebriated and get thrown out by security? But that story's not reported. The game's reported. The message is reported. Right now, there's some people that are being opportunist, and that's diffusing the message. And I was walking around the house tonight, and I was thinking, we're not talking about 10 years. We're not talking about 20 years. We're not talking about 30 years. We're not talking about 40 years. We're not talking about 50 years. We're talking about over 60 years of case after case after case after case of African Americans that have been assassinated. Flat out stone cold murdered. And so these people who are taking opportunities to do some crimes and stuff that are outside of the realm of possibility. A girl from here was a Facebook Live and some things in Lexington the other night. There was a guy being an opportunist, running around I heard him say, to even commit some sexual crimes against women because there'd be no repercussions. This guy was white, he was white, and he had a skateboard, and he was doing some really awful stuff. And they were marching peacefully, they were marching down the street peacefully, trying to carry the message to people. Because how can you carry the message when you can't carry the message? Because there's peaceful protests that are being reported as being violent protesters. They're not able to carry the message. What other platform do they have? I don't know.
Good point. Hey, Leo, I have a question for you, and this is something that bothers me a little bit. Since we both kind of been in the same locker room. Now, through these years of social media, how has it affected you with your viewpoint of some of your teammates? Because it's something like back in our day, no internet, all we had was newspapers. And now you really get a chance to see the underside of the other side of your teammate outside the locker room. Because we all know in the locker room, we all got a common goal. We're all trying to win games, and we are brothers in the locker room always, because you have to be, because of the blood, sweat, and tears. We all go through the same thing. We all lift weights together. We all run together. We all practice our ass off. But outside of the locker room, we don't know everything that happens to some people who we don't hang out with. And I know I've learned some things throughout these years that I don't know is shocking, but it's a little shocking. What's your thoughts on? Has that affected your viewpoint on some of your brothers?
With one or two exceptions, no. I just my personal experience has been, we talked about this, how sports brings people together. When you're out there, when you go out there and everyone's hitting each other and knocking each other around, you can't wait to get in a game so you can stop hitting your friends. And a lot of people that want to pretend to be, like, I will acknowledge that there's white privilege, but there's also people who walk going, "Oh, I'm checking my white privilege." Those people really don't get it. They're just trying to play games, and I think there's a lot of people who don't understand what it's really like. And from our perspective, when you go out there and you hit each other and you beat each other, you can't wait to play a game. When you're in a game, you really, I mean, it's people say they don't want to see color. Well, even if you don't see color, monochrome is black and white. So for people, so first of all, we have to get real in real conversations and stop saying bullshit stuff like, I don't see color. Of course I see color. I can tell whether someone has a tan or not. By the way, I'm working on my tan to get closer to you guys, man. But I think when you get to a point, like, we didn't play together, but I was an academic coach for you guys, whether it's you guys that I got real close with, or even obviously closer with my teammates, you notice that that's a black person, but that's Ollie, or that's KB, or that's Anthony, or that's Van, or that's whomever. You forget about that. And when you're in a game and you see, like for me, if I see a white dude on the other side of the ball and has a different color on, that's the enemy. I got black people backing me up, and I watch other black people knock whatever out of a black dude on the other team to take up for me. The color, the dividing line in sports quickly stops being black and white, and it's for us blue and whatever team we're playing. And I feel, for the most part, to answer your question, that all these years later, you're never going to be 100%. There's always some people that I don't know, but the vast majority of people that I play with, black and white, we're still almost as tight as we ever were, and take up for each other and respond to each other. And you just, after a while, when you get that close to somebody, you just see them as whatever their name is. You don't see color anymore, even though you're aware that someone has a darker skin tone than you do. It stops being unimportant. But yeah, for me, I really haven't seen a lot of people that have, we want to say, to pun intended, shown their true colors and being racist. And I think obviously there's varying degrees of racism. There's people who just hate anyone who's not like them, but there's also unintentional racism where you don't wish anyone ill will, but you don't give a shit about George Floyd dying because it doesn't inconvenience your life. But you're more, I've seen some people, and this may be what you're getting at. I don't know anyone, including probably all of us and everyone that I know. I don't know one person who is excited or condones or is happy about the destruction of buildings or burning or whatever. But I have noticed that there are some people that were crickets. Didn't say a word when a man was murdered. That was a literal snuff film starring George Floyd. And said nothing. We're not compelled. We're not motivated enough to post or say anything. But yet they were motivated to say, to play into that racial stereotype of, look what those people are doing. Why are they burning the stuff down? Why are they not being more like Martin Luther King Jr.? As I said before, I don't really think that was the most of the protesters who are upset about George Floyd. But honestly, after all these years and the upteenth time this has happened, it's hard to blame anybody for, no matter how mad they are.
Right.
It's a credit to the protesters that they've held themselves this well and been this professional about something, because I know a lot of people that are white, and this is probably going to piss some people off, but I'm way past worried about that. They'll get over it. Is if this were someone who looked like them, that they wouldn't be as quick to post out to worry about inanimate objects, and they'd be much more vocal about the murdering that's going on continuously. And as we're talking, there could be someone getting murdered right now as we speak. It's not like it doesn't begin and end with George Floyd, and it doesn't begin and end with those few cops. This is a pervasive systemic problem. And until we realize that and come together and talk about that, until the majority of us talk about that, nothing is going to change. And until we change the laws, because when you have unconstitutional laws at federal, state, and local levels, and you make those cops enforce those unconstitutional laws, which they swore to uphold, when you have bad laws, you're going to have bad cops.
I would say, Leo, that silence is compliance too. It's
silence is deafening, isn't it?
When you are silent, and the thing about it is, if you are always silent, that's one thing. It says a lot about you. But if you're always silent, that's one thing. But if you're silent now, but you're not silent when there were quote unquote looters, and now you get out and you get on the front lines of being the first to voice your opinion, that says a lot about you. I'm just
exactly right.
So Elbow, have you seen that a lot where your buddies are silent and then all of a sudden they're not silent?
Well, now that you all are pointing it out to me, like I said, and helping me gain some perspective here, yes. And that goes back to what I'm telling you. I don't have all the answers here. I really don't. I don't know if I have any. And that's why I tell you, it's more important for me to understand, because when you are talking, when Leo was just talking to, I was listening and I'm like, man, it's just changing. It's just a change in perspective. I live down here in London, and it's a country. A lot more Appalachian and country, and there's some good people, and being around like even friends with Anthony. Maybe I'm too honest sometimes, but I just tell these things. Anthony, I think I grew up in a home where my dad, on more than one occasion, and this is true, my father would come downstairs to the table and he would quote by heart the Martin Luther King speech, and he would tell us how much it meant to him.
Wow.
And I think that thing went both ways, because I know a lot of times Anthony would be out with me and I would do something that was almost borderline inadvertent racism. I mean, it would make him like one time I grabbed him by the head and he said, "You don't grab me by the head." And he would joke with me and laugh, because he did understand the content of my heart was not to make him feel bad. And he educated me on a lot of things, and I would listen to him and I'd try to, because this is my brother here. This goes, I would do anything. Like he said, I'd get mad at situations before he would. But I had to learn. And everything is going to be, if anything's going to be remedied in the future, it's going to start with education. And I think it's going to start with some people understanding things that we don't address, that could be even where the roots of racism start, that we don't even maybe understand that we're contributed in. And that goes back to what I say about, I'm willing to take a look at every aspect of my life, because I may say things still today that may not be fully in the correctness of, it may, if it offends one, what was Leo saying a minute ago about the 100 cops, and if there's 10 bad ones, 110 bad cops, sometimes I do try to check my motives to make sure, because if it offends one person, then it's wrong, really. So, like in this situation, I just want to look at everything and try to be part of, y'all were talking about the problem and the solution. It's hard to sell both of those. I'm in addiction recovery business, and Anthony got to see me when I was out there pretty wild. And I say to people now, you can't sell the solution and the problem. You got to get on one side or the other. So I just want to be on the solution side of this thing, and I'm willing to let somebody else lead me there if I don't know how to get
there. Yeah, and I think that's a big thing, asking the right questions. And I think that's what education is. You hit the nail on the head, and I know you kind of stumbled upon it, but to me, I want people asking questions which you don't know. I don't want everybody rushing to the front of the line with the answers, because I tell you, one of my favorite players, Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, was banned from the NBA for speaking his piece. Colin Kaepernick. So you don't want nobody to kneel. You don't want us to be peaceful and just do our little thing in the back, but you don't want to tear shit up. I mean, so every time we try to make it, then we put out shirts, Black Lives Matter, everything I don't know what you want us to do. So, like I said, I'm not the one to say, hey, this is what you all got to do to make it up to us. No, I'm not saying that. I'm right there with you, Elmo, that we need to be educated. But like I said, I don't want some bigot, because everybody has an agenda. I don't want everybody running to the front of the line. Oh, this is what we need to do. No, let's all ask questions. And like I said, Elmo will tell you in a minute. We became closer friends. Like, so he don't offend me nothing he does. But he learned from, like, man, you can't do that. He was, oh, I didn't know it. Well, but then again, this dude know more Tupac than I do. Word for word, man. No more Tupac than I do. And he from London, Kentucky.
Get me in the booth. Get me in the booth.
Elmo, man, I think what you said was really, really point on. And it's good to meet you, if nothing else, electronically, and meet Anthony's friends, brother. But when you just said that you don't have all the answers, I'm going to tell you that a fool thinks they know it all, and a wise person realizes they know nothing. And we're just four people on here who really know nothing. But the bottom line is we're all willing to learn. We're all willing to talk it out. And yeah, like you're saying, Anthony, it's not just one person standing up and giving decrees and bossing us around. That's what's getting us into this mess from the federal, state, and local level down to the police. There's too many people bossing people around. I come from a standpoint, not just right and wrong. I'm one human being, and I don't try to force other human beings to do anything. And I think when we get into situations where human beings are trying to force other people to do things, and that's what a lot of these horrible laws are. And a lot of, it goes back to laws like, 3 strikes and you're out. It goes back to laws like asset forfeiture. It goes to laws like more longer term penalty in prison for possessing a healthy plant than literal murder. There are brothers that'll be in prison longer because they had a healthy plant than these cops are for murdering people if they don't get off scot free. And when you make laws like that that disproportionately affect black people being in prison, and realize, first of all, it's intentional, but the average white person probably never even thinks about that. And, I wouldn't have known that if my black friends, many, many years ago didn't point that out. And then I start looking at it. I'm infuriated anytime one human being tries to boss, enslave, control another human, obviously children, but adult to adult. We in a free society, we should all not have to fear other people. And we have built a system like that, and it starts at every level of government. It goes through the police, who are the weapons of the government. And in many ways, it builds a culture. And until we talk about all of this, as long as we think it's just one man named George Floyd and 4 bad cops, and that's it, and that's the end of the problem, the beginning of the problem, we're never going to solve anything. It is a long time coming. It's rooted deep in our history. And no, none of us did that. You guys weren't slaves, and I wasn't a slave owner. But if we, and none of the people who did those horrible things are even alive today, but if we don't recognize that culture is still not like it was, but there's still remnants of that culture. And even if it's less in the general populace, it is in our laws, and it's disproportionately affecting the black community. And we all have to recognize that. Now, we can solve that, but we can't solve it if we don't recognize it. And to what you were saying, Elmo, is it just takes everybody listening to each other and not wanting to, as soon as someone finishes a sentence, not listen to a damn thing they said and tell the other person why they're wrong.
Sure.
Just listen. We don't, at the end of the day, we don't all have to agree with what everybody says, everything. We should all listen, and that's where it starts.
Absolutely.
Here's a crazy thing that I tell people all the time, and it's eye-opening for some people. And it's crazy when I say it, but like, I'm the first person in my family, in my immediate family, my mom and dad, grandmother, who was born with all their rights.
Wow.
That's think about it. My dad was born in the 50s, and I'm the first one in my family that was born with all my rights. People don't understand, like, this 60 years ago.
That's a great point.
It's like, it's not that long ago. We're talking about a generation. But people don't get the fact that yes, you were not slave owners. Correct. No doubt about it. But you don't understand how it has helped you out in life. Like, when I say white privilege to people and they get upset, it's like, all right, this is what white privilege means. And the thing about it is, the people hear the words and don't know the meaning. It's like Black Lives Matter is a group of people. It's an organization. It's not just a word, it's an organization. So maybe should they have named it something else? Okay, whatever. But it's an organization, right? So I don't understand when people get confused with just the word. It's just a word. We are all trying to accomplish the same thing, but it's just a word. And it hurts me deeply that people don't understand that in the 60s, we were battling for rights. That was only less than 60 years ago. Less than 60 years ago,
Right.
we was battling for civil rights. That's not that long ago.
Not at all. And there's still remnants of that left today. And sometimes I think we just really get into a battle of semantics. If we really understood each other, I mean, in terms of the different disparate groups in our society, for example, some white people hear the word white privilege. I don't actually like the word privilege. Perhaps if we said black disadvantage is probably more accurate. It's the same thing. But if you're a black person, you were disadvantaged because of how many, my parents had college degrees.
Right.
how many black friends do I have who they're the first person in their family to go to college?
Right.
Like you're saying, your dad was literally born with not all the rights that all of us have right now, and but my dad wasn't born that way.
Right.
So these things, and it may not have as tremendous of an effect today in 2020 as it did 60 years ago, but there's still remnants of that. And for any white person, some people that are white that are poor, going, well, I don't have any white privilege. Well, your family may not be as wealthy or as privileged.
I lost you, Leo.
Lost it.
Let me finish.
All
Leo
right.
was saying, but here's the way. So to me, the white privilege deal. White privilege is like this: is that the color of everybody goes through issues. Everybody goes through obstacles. Everybody has tough patches. Now, everybody's born with a silver spoon in their mouth. But has the color of your skin ever been an additional obstacle? See, that's the white privilege part. Is the color of your skin hasn't been an added obstacle to jump over. And yeah, Eastern Kentucky is full of poor white people whom no one gives a damn about. I mean, that part of the country, the Appalachians, no one gives a damn about them. And they have it rougher than a lot of black people. And that's a fact. The white privilege part comes in is that wasn't caused by just the color of their skin. And I just know I don't like the fact that part of the country, East Kentucky, the Appalachians, are just taken for granted. But that's the term white privilege means to me. Is have you ever, the color of your skin ever affected you and created an obstacle for you to jump over that other people didn't?
Yeah, or do you regularly fear for your life when you see a police officer? I think all of us are driving down the road and you see the blue lights or red lights and like, shit, what do I do now?
Right.
But for a white person, it's like, damn, I got to get a speeding ticket or whatever. To a black person, damn, am I going to survive this?
Exactly.
And maybe not every time, but there's very few white people that have ever literally feared for their lives when they knew they weren't doing anything wrong, but they could make something that would be perceived as, I thought he was going for a gun. No white person worries. A police officer, I should say, no. Very few, disproportionately few white people worry about a police officer saying, gee, I thought the white guy was going for a gun, so I shot him. Every black person thinks about that. And that's an example of systemic, I rather call it black disadvantage than white privilege, because I feel like we're kind of all put down by the government, but just black people just disproportionately so, and it's been generational and it's been systemic. And although I grew up in Eastern Kentucky, so absolutely I know that a lot of white people have very, very little privilege, but as you said, it has nothing to do with the color of their skin.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
And on that,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say this,
Elmo, sorry.
A lot down here. I've had a lot of. You all were asking me about what I'm seeing, and I have seen a lot of the people down here saying, "Well, excuse me, all lives matter," in this right here. And here's what I told a friend of mine. This may be wrong. I said, "Yeah, that was the baseline. That was the premise. All lives mattered." But they had to go this way because all lives weren't mattering. Black people, were getting killed one after another. So we have to bring it back. We can't go down to the baseline until we all get there.
Right.
Is that terrible? Is that terrible? Is that wrong?
No, man. Look, as I say, speak your truth and talk your shit. Those are my two words. Speak your truth and talk your shit.
Well, that's what I told him. I said, yeah, we had to back up because we didn't arrive. We've not arrived yet, is all.
Right. I'll say this. If we stop being defensive, it can make a difference. Listening and stop being defensive. And if we learn that, man, as a nation, our country can be so much better. It's just, I don't know. It's just weird. It's like going back to the locker. It's like it's weird that certain people will pat you on the back after a game on Saturday, right? But Sunday through Friday, they don't like you.
Mm.
But once you score a touchdown, get an interception, get a big tackle, oh, you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. But the next morning, I can't believe these such and such are doing it. It's the weirdest thing.
I'm gonna give you one quick story. We're gonna head on out because it just made me think of this. When I first moved back up here in 2005, and thank goodness I wasn't with Elmo, but I was with mostly former players. I think back in 2005, had on some white Air Force Ones, a white button up, and blue jeans, and a baseball hat, a white baseball hat. So I'm looking pretty dapper. We go into a bar. This big dude, about 6'4", stands up and was like, "Man, you can't get in with those shoes." What do you mean? So you can't wear tennis shoes? He said, "No white tennis shoes." I said, so a guy behind me has on some cut-off cargo shorts, a Marlboro t-shirt, and flip-flops. And he walks in the door, like while I'm talking to this guy. So my buddies are like, "Hey, come on, man. Hey, how much we got?" I was like, I walked to the back. Like, let's go. I'm going to the door. I'm driving. So let's go. We're not going in there. Like, so while I'm walking off, an Asian guy walks in, and he has on some Etonics and something in like a tank top. And he walks in. How do you think I remember? That's how vivid this stuff is. I remember what shoes they were wearing and everything, nationality. So I turned around, and one of my buddies who played with me in Van goes up to the dude and was like, "Aren't you so-and-so? Didn't you play linebacker at Kentucky? You got hurt or whatever?" Because he's a bouncer, this big old dude. And he said, "You know who that is?" He was like, "No." Kind of shrugged his shoulder. He was like, "That's Anthony White." He was like, "Oh, really? Oh, man, come here." And I'm like,
no.
But the guy turned out to be a good guy. And I think he was just carrying out the message that his bosses gave him. But now that my name is Anthony White, you can talk to him about the rules or whatever.
Right.
You can let me in. You can discuss. And that's not fair. I don't accept it. Elmo will tell you, any of my boys will tell you, if you don't want to, that's why I always tell people, if I'm going somewhere where I don't want to be known, don't tell them my name. Because I don't want no privileges. I don't want you to let me in like I'm not a token. And that's a true story. The dude was, I think he played 4 years after I did, but so he knew who I was, but he just didn't know me. But that shouldn't have made a difference.
Right. Hey, Elmo, Leo, brothers, I appreciate y'all coming on, man. It means a lot to have y'all come on and give y'all viewpoint. And we'll definitely have you guys back on again, man.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you guys.
Good
Okay.
insight, fellas.
All right, Ant.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Good to meet you, Elmo.
All right.
Anthony.
Good to
man,
meet
good to see
you.
you.
Good to meet you, Leo. Bye-bye.
All right, guys.